Hello, and welcome to English 319 Document Design. I'm Dr. Tirrell, and I'll be your instructor this semester. And the purpose of this video is to give you an introduction to the course website, which contains information about course policies, assignments, and due dates. This is a hybrid section of English 319. What that means is ordinarily we'll have one course meeting per week in our classroom, which is Morton 204, and then we'll have one course meeting that takes place online, either through tasks you'll accomplish or synchronous or asynchronous interactions. Because of that, the course website is absolutely critical. So after watching this video, make sure you familiarize yourself with it thoroughly. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this is the home page of the course website, and you should have received an email from me with the link to it. I'm also going to go ahead and post it here on the screen. One way or another, you just need some consistent way to get to our course website because the course flows through it and you're going to be consulting particularly the calendar quite a bit. So let's go ahead and take a look at just a few of the consistent features that'll show up on every page. The first thing, we've got these navigation tabs up here, right? It's on the home page, so that one's active. Then we have the syllabus, projects, and calendar pages. We also, over here on the right-hand sidebar, we have course information and instructor information. So we know when the course meets and where. Instructor information, if you need to get in touch with me, you can email me through this email link. My office is in Morton Hall, room 161, which is the first floor downstairs from our classroom. My office hours are Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 3 and by email or appointment. Because this is a hybrid class, some of my office hours are online. So let's go ahead and take a look at the home page. That's the first page you'll see when you go to our main course website. And it collects updates and news that you should know. So anything new and important will be posted here. Right now there's just this welcome message. And you can see if you click on it, it takes you to the message itself that just gives you some basic information and asks you to familiarize yourself with different aspects of the course website. So the next page we'll look at is the syllabus page, and that's where all the course policies are articulated. You probably won't look at this page too often, but you do want to read through it thoroughly because you will be expected to adhere to the course policies, and in fact you're going to be signing a course contract that indicates as much. So up at the top here we have some basic course information, and really this is the same stuff that's in the sidebar here. We have a course overview. I'm not going to read through all of this because you can do that on your own time, but I am going to point out some highlights. So in the course overview, we've got some information about the scope of this course. You'll notice there's this link here about the course contract. This is also linked in the calendar. And as I mentioned, this is the document that you're going to be printing and signing, and it indicates that you're familiar with the policies articulated on the syllabus and that you're going to adhere to them. So you'll be signing and dating this. There are also a couple of elements I want to draw your attention to. By default, student work may be used anonymously for teaching and research purposes. What this means is that I aggregate student work together and use it sometimes for research purposes or as examples for teaching purposes, but it's all anonymous. However, you can opt out of this. You just have to initial here as it says, and I just won't include your stuff. There's also a space down here that indicates that by default students have online access to their course grades by use of a randomly generated identification number. If you don't want to have online access to your grades using that system, you can initial here and then we'll work something else out for your grade information. So those two are optional, but you do want to look them over before you sign and hand in your course contract. As I mentioned, that's linked here on the syllabus and on the calendar, but it is something you want to be familiar with. Other things in the syllabus page here, we've got course learning outcomes. This is what you'll gain from this course. Also, the required text, I want to draw your attention to this. It's Document Design, a Guide for Technical Communicators by Kimball and Hawkins. This is it. On Amazon. You can get it from the school bookstore or anywhere else. It doesn't really matter to me. but you want to obtain it really quickly because we use it right at the beginning of the class, so you want to make sure you have your copy. Some other course policies, technology expectations. Because this is a hybrid class, there are some technology expectations. Our classroom is a computer lab, and then of course you'll be doing half of your class meetings through a remote location, either your own computer or here on campus or whatever. But I do expect you to be able to interact with the course website, to have access to word processing, visual design, and web design software. That is on our lab machines, if nowhere else. You do need an email account checked regularly for course-related business. Probably that's your school account. And a flash drive or some other means to back up coursework, such as your shared student drive, which is either Sammy or Timmy. But that's your networked backup that is provided by the school. As this statement here points out, you need to make sure that you're backing up all your work. Digital technology is going to fail you, but that's not an excuse anymore. I mean, that's like the dog ate my homework. Your computer is going to fail. All computers, all software fails. It's just part of it. It's part of, everything in the physical universe. You need to be prepared for that. So you need to back stuff up. You need to have copies coming in when something is due and saying, well, I don't have it. My computer crashed. That's just not an excuse anymore. This is a hybrid section, and we all grew up with computers. It's just not permitted as an excuse. You will have access to personal technology devices in our classroom. How you want to use those is fine as long as you're not disrupting what's going on in the class at the time. We all live surrounded by screens and digital information, so we need to learn how to budget our attention. Part of your experience in this class will be learning to do exactly that. As I mentioned, some of your course material might be used anonymously. Now, because we have a website, some stuff you post, it won't be attributable to you, but if you post stuff, it's going to be on the open web, so you need to be aware of that. This production section, this actually is something that we need to discuss. It says some work created for this course will require production capabilities beyond that of standard campus resources. Students will be responsible for securing appropriate resources either on or off campus for such work. That's really vague. That's because I can't really be more specific. What it means is for some projects, specifically our last one and maybe some of the others, you might need to use production materials that we just don't have access to. For example, for the last project in previous semesters, students have created tote bags or ceramic coasters or t-shirts, things that require production materials that we just don't really have available through, campus stuff. Sometimes we do through the cake office or something like that. The point of this is if you're going to produce some of that stuff, you need to be able to figure out a way to do it. You can use off-campus resources such as FedEx Office. It's what used to be Kinko's. Or, Staples or things like that. Or you can buy DIY things like Mod Podge, whatever. Part of the course is figuring out how to accomplish that sort of thing. So that's what this production section means. Attendance and punctuality, you do want to pay attention to this. We only have 15 person-to-person meetings. That means every one of them is pretty precious. I take roll with a roll sheet at the beginning of every class. If you're not there to sign the sheet, you get counted absent. The big thing here is any student who misses more than 3 in-class meetings, so that's 3 weeks of face-to-face meetings, you'll fail outright. That sounds harsh, but it really isn't. I mean, that's almost a month of meetings. It's a fifth of them. We only have 15. So we're talking about 20% because of the way this class is structured. You need to make sure you're here. If something's going to come up and you can't make it, that's fine. We just need to work it out ahead of time. Just contact me before, and it's usually not a big deal. But if you're going to be missing half the class periods, then you just need to drop it. You need to take a withdrawal. Because if you're not here, you're not engaging in the material. The courses are set up so that half of it is done through online interaction, but half of it is structured so that the face-to-face meetings are important. It's stuff that you need to be here for. So that's that. Late work, under normal circumstances, I don't take it, so that's easy. We also abide by the standard academic integrity rules that are in the honor code here, so feel free to refresh your knowledge of that. Students with disabilities will make every effort we can to accommodate. You just have to go through the Disability Resource Center. I can't do anything independently. Let's see, violence and harassment. Again, this is the university policy. If you're encountering any sort of violent or harassing behavior, you can call 911. That's usually, if it's an emergency, do that. Otherwise, you can contact CARE at 962-2273. There's also the resource page you can consult as well. One thing to be aware of is that this is true of all instructors you'll encounter. Now, we've had an update in the policy so that there aren't any more confidential resources except for 3. What that means is anything you say to an instructor, they are legally obliged to communicate. So if you tell an instructor something about harassment, they are legally obliged to turn that over. So be aware that they're not confidential resources. The only remaining confidential resources are CARE, the Counseling Center, and the Abram Student Health Center. Every other campus entity is legally obliged to turn stuff over to the Dean of Students if we hear about misconduct in any form, on or off campus. The impetus behind that is good. It's to make sure these things are reported and cataloged and that the appropriate measures are taken. But it just means that students need to be aware of this as well. And then religious observance, this is actually a state law. You're guaranteed to have, or you're entitled to, 2 excused absences for religious observance per academic year. You just have to indicate in advance. You have to tell the instructor in writing and the registrar in writing. What this means is you can't say, oh, I have a religious absence tomorrow. You have to do it in advance. You know what your religious schedule is going to be. So by state law, you are entitled to those 2 days. We just have to know in advance. This last bit about course grading, as I mentioned, by default, students have anonymous access to their grades online. Basically, through this website, you'll be able to access your grades. You'll have a randomly generated number that you'll be able to look up your grades with. There are grade components here. Oh, and of course, you can opt out of this system if you want. That's on the course contract. There are grade components here that show how the grade is constituted. You've got engagement assignments. Those are short, as it says down here, work that we'll be doing just to keep the course going. So in class, out of class, things like, bringing particular materials, doing a class activity. All those cumulatively are 5% of the course grade. We've got reading quizzes, which, as you can tell, are quizzes over the readings. They test your mastery of course material. We'll have those, and they're on the course calendar. They're not a surprise. Those collectively are 20% of the course grade. They're, short answer, which means multiple choice or fill in the blank. They aren't long. They're brief quizzes. And then we have 3 main projects, and there'll be more information about these in the project section of the web page. But you can see they're 25% each. Those are the majority of the course grade. All of our projects go through drafting and revision processes, but they do have hard deadlines. So you're not going to be, just sort of thrown out of the boat to fend for yourself. We're all going to be doing revision and drafting and user feedback and that kind of thing. But then we do have hard deadlines. And of course, you can contact me at any stage to discuss your course grade, even after it's been graded. I tend not to have too many comments on final versions because we have the drafting and revision. And at that point, after it's been graded, if you put comments on it, it's really just sort of to explain why you got this grade rather than to help you refine it. And that's really where comments are most effective. And then lastly, final course grades, we use the plus-minus system in here. That's not punitive. It's not to hurt anybody. I never use it that way. It's just to give the grade scale a little bit more fine grain. You know, grades, letter grades, as a student, you know these are very coarse. I mean, it's a very blunt tool. Using plus-minus just gives us a little bit more nuance to your accomplishments in a particular course. So that is the syllabus. As I said, you want to make sure that you read through this thoroughly because you are going to be expected to abide by these principles, and you are going to be turning in a course contract that indicates you're going to do that. The next page we'll see is the projects page, and as you can guess, it gives us information about our major course projects. They're all linked here, all three of them. We're not going to go over these in detail right now because it's not going to make a lot of sense unless it's in context. But if we look at this first one, the Publics project, we can kind of see the structure of how these pages work. So we've got a summary that tells you an overview of what you're going to be producing. We've got a list of deliverables or things you'll turn in or steps along the way. That's how you might think of that. And then linked resources, so we can see some of the resources associated with this project. That's kind of how this page breaks down. And you can look at these three projects on your own time. We're going to be jumping right in with the Publics project right at the beginning of the semester. But we will be talking about these things in context rather than in isolation. The last page we'll look at is also probably the most important, or at least the most frequently used page, and that's the calendar. And you can see how this calendar is structured. We've got three columns. We've got the date, anything that's due on that particular day, and then the agenda for that class period as well. So the first day, August the 21st, that's a Thursday. There's nothing due, obviously. And the tasks are to watch this course introduction video. It will be linked. It's not now because I'm doing it. We'll also need to complete the personal introductions post. And we'll go through that in just a second. But then you can see for Tuesday, August the 26th, we do have a couple of things due today. We need to complete the course contract, print that out, and bring it in. We need to have read Document Design Chapter 1 because we're going to have our first reading quiz on that day. We're also going to discuss the chapter, get our first look at the Publics project, and then begin the Aesthetic Manifesto analysis production. That's a component of the Publics project. So that's essentially how the calendar works. If you ever miss a day, you can keep up to date with what was going on and what needs to be accomplished. And the whole course sort of flows through this, so you want to be particularly familiar with it. But let's look at these first couple of things just to make sure we're all on the same page. The personal introductions post, I'm going to click here. And you can see this is just a basic online form. This is actually processed by Google Forms. And you can see it just asks for a few bits of information. I do want you to go ahead and fill this out as it says. It's part of the agenda for this first day. So you put your name. You'll provide information as befitting these questions. The introduction asks for a few sentences about yourself, including your major, year, and personal interests. So I would put that here. Information. Expectations, provide a few sentences about your expectations for this class. Discuss what you intend to get out of it and what motivated you to enroll. So something about my expectations here. Whoops. Spell that correctly. And then a hybrid class fit, so a few sentences about your comfort with online interaction and this class's hybrid nature. So, my comfort with this, and a few sentences there. You just have to click submit once you're finished. Now, one thing about this is for longer forms, what I really suggest you do, in fact, let's just make it mandatory, is write this in a different program like Microsoft Word, compose it here, and then just copy and paste. So that way, if there are any problems, the form doesn't submit or whatever, you haven't lost any material. We've all been in that horrible situation where you've tried to do something online and then the computer blitzed or something didn't go right and you've lost a lot of work. This is a hybrid class we need to get comfortable with good, what we might call data hygiene, right? If we save this to our network drive, even when we submit that form, if there are any serious problems, we haven't really lost anything, right? So once we've copied and pasted this over, click Submit, we can see it went through. It says, thanks, your response has been recorded. We're good to go. So then we've done everything for the agenda for the 21st. We do want to make sure we print out and bring a completed course contract because that is due on August the 26th. And we want to make sure that we've read the first chapter in our document design book. So those are the major elements of our course website: the calendar, the projects page, the syllabus, and the home page. Because this is a hybrid course, we're going to be using this website a lot. Everything's going to flow through it. We want to familiarize ourselves with it, particularly the calendar page, and also things like submitting forms, accessing print materials, and other related tasks. So that's the course website. The next step is for you to go there and familiarize yourself with all the different sections: the home page, the syllabus, the projects page, and most of all, the calendar. You'll notice on the calendar that you also need to do your personal introductions post. That is an engagement assignment grade, and it also demonstrates that you're able to use the form submission tool that we're going to be using throughout the semester. Also on the calendar, you can see that for Tuesday, you need to have printed out and signed your course contract. And also you need to have read the first chapter in our course textbook, Document Design. We're going to have our first reading quiz in class on Tuesday, so you want to make sure you have that material under your command. Well, that's pretty much it. Again, welcome to the course. This is a hybrid section, so there is a little bit more of an onus on you to be personally invested in the course, to take responsibility for your own success. You're going to be doing some things independently, some things on your own schedule, some things at your own initiative. If you need to get a hold of me, you can always email me. My email address is on the course website, and you can always come by my office hours, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 3 in Morton Hall 161. Again, welcome, and I hope you enjoy the course and that you find it challenging and rewarding. Thanks.